All for being with us tonight. My name is Troy Wayman. I'm the president and CEO of One Acadiana. And for those of you unfamiliar with One Acadiana, we're an organization that really serves two roles. We serve as the Chamber of Commerce for Lafayette, but we also serve as a non-parish regional economic development organization. So we're about making jobs happen. Our sole goal really is the creation and preservation of jobs. We want to make sure that there's opportunity for people to work and make sure, secondly, that there are people to fill those jobs that are created and preserved. So to that end, one of the things that's critically important to us is the retention of talent. I heard someone in one of our CivicCon events in the past refer to UL as a talent factory, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. Produces a tremendous amount of talent for our community and for our entire region and for our state, and we want to do what we can to keep that talent here. And for those of you that are joining us for the first time for a CivicCon event, our CivicCon series is something we started a couple of years ago. Came out of an event we did that was a Vibrant Community Summit. We had Quint Studer from Pensacola come over and spend a couple of days with us and got a lot of people really engaged and involved about how to make our community more vibrant, how to make it more, make it even a better place. It's already a great place, but to make it even a better place to live, to learn, to work, to play, to raise a family, all those things that are important to all of us. Part of that was an event that he hosts in Pensacola called CivicCon, which stands for Civic Conversation, and really what the purpose of CivicCon is to engage people in those civic conversations, is to get those conversations started. It's to raise the civic IQ, to educate people on what's important in a community and what means a lot to the residents of the community and what it's going to take to make our place an even better place. We've had a lot of experts come in and talk to our community on these topics. We live stream them all, and then we also save the videos, and they're hosted on our website at vibrantacadiana.com or at oneacadiana.org. You can access the Vibrant Acadiana site through there as well. We want to make sure that people continue to view these. We get a lot of views after the fact. A lot of people use these videos. In fact, we found out recently that there's some folks that have even used them for, if they've had a guest speaker cancel, they'll just pull up one of our videos and show it to a group of people, and we'll take that. We'll take great pride in that if people need that to educate people, because the more the word is out there, the more people will learn, and the more people will get excited and engaged in their community. This year, in partnership with the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, we conducted a similar survey to the one that we conducted when we first started the CivicCon series, where we did a quality of life survey throughout the region. We wanted to find out what people thought about living in Lafayette and living in Acadiana. And it's something that Quint did in Pensacola, and we put up a dashboard that measured those results, keeps track of those results. Well, we got similar results the second year that we did it, and so what we wanted to do is look at things a little differently. So we decided, hey, let's go to one of our partners in UL, great partner of ours, a longtime supporter of our organization, and heavily involved in all that we do in economic development and workforce development and all the work that we do, even on the legislative side. They work with us on a lot of our advocacy issues. So we approached them, and man, they jumped at it. They said, it sounds like a great idea. Let's find out what our students think of our community. And so if we know what the students think, we can figure out what do we need to work on to make it better so that they stay here, they continue to stay here. So we were proud to partner with the university on it. I will say this, the university is very thorough on putting together a survey. You know, I'm the kind of guy that's like, hey, let's do a survey. I got some questions. Let's throw them out there right now. You ready to go? The university was a little more methodical about it than that. So, but it worked out fantastic, and we're really excited about the number one, about the number of people that participated in the survey, which is an incredible number because, you know, a lot of times people tend to ignore surveys, but the students stepped up and really didn't ignore the survey, and they really participated, and we're very grateful for that. Tonight, we're excited to unveil the results of this survey and to learn how the findings can be used to strengthen the ties between UL, the students here, and the wider community, improve the student experience, and help retain more of these UL students. We want to keep them here in Lafayette. So before we get into the results, I'd like to take an opportunity to recognize our sponsors and partners who have made this opportunity possible. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Rudick Construction Group, who I'm going to invite their representative to the stage in just a moment or so. But also want to thank our supporting sponsor, the William C. Schumacher Family Foundation. I think I saw Carly and I saw Erica here. Yeah. You can always count on them for their own shout out, which I like that. The William C. Schumacher Foundation's mission is to build stronger communities through collaboration and community engagement. And what better way than to have us all engaged here with this talk this evening. I want to thank them for being a longtime and continuing sponsor of CivicCon. They helped us start it. They've been involved with us since the very beginning, and we're grateful for that. Thank you very much, Carly and Erica, for your support. Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank our supporting sponsor, the Acadiana Center for the Arts. Sam in here? He's never in here when I call him out. I want to thank Sam for letting us use this facility. It's a great facility, and it's been the host of all of our CivicCon events so far, and we're very, very excited about the partnership we have with the Acadiana Center for the Arts. And then I also want to thank the Acadiana Advocate for being our official media partner on our CivicCon series. They do a great job, and we couldn't be more grateful for their support and their partnership in this. Now, at this time, I want you to help me welcome to the stage Jillian Blanchard. It's going to take me a little bit. She's fresh from her honeymoon, recently married, so congratulations. She's marketing manager for Rudick Construction Group, and I want her to share a few words about Rudick Construction.
Thank you, Troy. All right. Excuse me. Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here on behalf of Rudick Construction Group. And as an alumni of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, twice, I appreciate the university and One Acadiana for bringing us together tonight to host important conversations, inform us on their future planning, and continue to connect our community. Our city is fortunate to have these two powerhouses come together to create solutions and bring and build a future for generations of students to come and stay. Speaking of building, our firm is proud to be the presenting sponsor tonight, as we are a homegrown company with UL alumni on our team, including our very own CEO, Clay Rudick. With 40 years in Lafayette and 2 additional offices in Texas, we are an experienced and resourceful commercial general contractor specializing in manufacturing, industrial, retail, institutional, healthcare, and various public work. Like any organization that relies on a strong workforce, finding and retaining young talent is of the utmost importance to us. These talented professionals are a key investment for businesses like ours to successfully compete. Understanding from a student's perspective what makes Lafayette a great place to live, learn, and work is a critical component to retaining young talent in Acadiana, and Rudick is honored to be a part of the discussion. Thank you, and go Cajuns.
Thank you, Jillian. I really appreciate your commitment, not only obviously to Rudick Construction, your employer, but your commitment to the community, your leadership in 705, your continued work that you do with us at One Acadiana. We greatly appreciate it, and thank you for your sponsorship. And congratulations again. We're looking forward to a variety of speakers here tonight from the university, both faculty and students, to give us an in-depth look at the survey's data, which was collected from over 700. I mentioned the numbers, actually almost 800. We need to, it's not, yeah, it's over 700, but it's almost 800 students. Here to speak first on the UL Lafayette strategic plan and how this data can impact the future is Dr. Blanca Bauer, Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs and Institutional Effectiveness. Please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Bauer.
Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking One Acadiana for the opportunity to work together, basically to discover our students' perceptions about their quality of life in Lafayette and Acadiana. I'm Blanca Bauer, and I am a 4.5-year resident of Lafayette. I moved here from San Antonio for my position at UL Lafayette, and my husband and I have really enjoyed becoming a part of this community. I work under the provost in academic affairs and oversee the offices reporting under institutional effectiveness. We oversee planning and assessment across the university, curriculum effectiveness and management, and we produce and analyze official institutional data for reporting and information that helps us tell our many, many stories. We were thrilled to work on the Quality of Life survey at a critical time when we're starting to truly begin to align, resource, and implement all the steps we need to take towards the implementation of our new strategic plan 2023 to 2028. 5 years of lots of work. I want to start by talking about place. We know place is very important, and a university's geographic location is critical to fulfilling its mission. The university has an undeniable presence in the community, and so too does the community have an undeniable presence and impact on the university. Whether we attended college here, in Lafayette, or elsewhere, the role of the community upon our students' college experiences is undeniable. So we'd like to share a little bit of that story about our students' perceptions about how they feel living in Lafayette. First, I want to start with talking to you about who are these students who call UL and Lafayette home this fall 23. So to tell you a little bit about them, this fall we have a total of 15,345 undergraduate and graduate students. They represent 63 parishes, 47 states, and 83 foreign countries. 47%, or approximately 7,200, are from the parishes surrounding Lafayette Parish. They include Lafayette, St. Landry, Acadia, St. Martin, Iberia, Vermilion, and St. Mary's. So half of our students are from this region, and many of them grew up here, and they know what life is like. 6.3%, or right under 1,966, are from out of state. 4%, or 586, are from foreign countries. 43% are from parishes that are not in the Acadiana region. Approximately 3,000 live on campus, but 12,000 do not. So that tells you about the diversity of who's here, of who comes to school here, and who lives here. And it was this student body that we were considering when we developed our newest strategic plan. I want to provide a quick overview of some of the highlights, primarily so you know how the plan is organized, and I'm going to direct a few connections to the strategic plan, to our discussion on quality of life, but I invite you to download the plan, to read it. There's a lot in there, and there's no way we can cover it all tonight. So, the strategic plan overview, I was thrilled with Gretchen Vanacore, my co-chair, to chair the strategic plan implementation committee. We worked for several years on it. And so I think I want to talk just a little bit about how we came up with the plan. What happened to help us develop these goals and these visions that we've come up for ourselves? We actually started planning and trying to gather data and doing environmental scans in 2019. My staff in institutional effectiveness started an environmental scan. We were looking internally and externally to what was happening in the environment, the community, business, industry, and higher ed. And then COVID happened, and that changed all of the work we had done. It was a disruption, but it did not end our conversations. Our conversations continued. Our data gathering continued. We had retreats. We had conversations all through COVID. And even in the early, in those times where we were not together, we started to see early themes emerge. When we were back on campus in fall 2021, we began again to rescan the environment, to collect more data. And what we realized is that issues had shifted. The world and academics had shifted. Instructional delivery had a new paradigm. Mental health was an emerging issue. And the need for community connections was also quite strong, trends that we had not seen prior to the pandemic. We formalized a strategic plan task force to help develop this plan, and we reassessed gathered more data, and continued to have more conversations. By spring of 2022, we began to see definite themes, trends, and overriding ideas. We vetted existing and developed new mission and vision statements. Let's see. We identified values and enduring commitments that are the foundational building blocks that reinforce what we do and are at the forefront of our work, and I'll talk about all of these in a little while. We also grouped our goals and objectives around 5 strategic priorities. So, starting with our mission. One of the first things we had to do was look at our existing mission and see if it was still relevant to today and the future. Essentially, when you read our new mission, we establish our purpose as improving the world for future generations, which is an ambitious undertaking. And that improvement and the students' context that we build starts right here in Acadiana and Lafayette. This community becomes the place where students and employees learn and gain understanding as we join diverse worldviews of our students, faculty, and staff with the local community and their sharing of the local culture, pride, and traditions, which bring us all together as part of the same community with similar goals. All students were at the forefront of our thinking when we were developing our mission statement. And as we look ahead, we know it is they who will lead, innovate, and develop solutions right here. They're going to develop the knowledge, skills, and competencies, values, attitudes, behaviors, and often their purpose and vocation right here in this city. This area becomes the students' testing ground for their first steps into adulthood, into this new and different environment for them. They came here to start a new journey at UL Lafayette, and the community is a critical part of that journey. So where are we headed? This is our new vision statement. And in our vision statement that has been revised, we challenge the challenge and expectation we face is that of improving the world. And Lafayette is the cornerstone of where inspiration starts. And that improvement is born in the hearts and minds of our students right here. We rely on who we are, our culture, our traditions, and our spirits as the springboard to shape the hearts and minds of all our students. The inspiration, epiphany, self-discovery happen here. We have a tremendous opportunity and responsibility as we provide the backdrop to the effort students will embark on as each works to improve the human condition, the cornerstone of our vision. This figure represents the framework of our strategic plan, and it's somewhat busy, but it helps you understand how everything has to work together to make our vision a reality. At the center of our framework is the university. Around it are the 5 strategic priorities, which I'll discuss soon, as well as our values and something that we're calling enduring commitments. And I'm going to talk about each of these as we go through specific slides for them. Our values. Our values set the expectation for how we must act and behave as we work together and collaborate. To work cohesively as a team, we must be able to listen and understand and bring a full awareness and respect for human dignity as we go through self-discovery, through learning, and through change. And so these 6 values have been adopted in our new plan. Collaboration, collegiality, honesty, integrity, respect, and transparency, and we want to bring that into all of the work we do and decisions we make. Our enduring commitments. Our enduring commitments speak to the public good as we engage and work to solve problems. These could not be separated out from our strategic priorities, but instead are woven into all of them. That's why we've separated them out into enduring commitments. And those include access, opportunity, and success, innovation, organizational culture, service, and sustainability. I go through these relatively quickly because I really want y'all to have time to listen to the data, to have conversations about the data, and also to talk about our Sorry, I didn't forward this. I'm going the wrong way. Sorry about that. To talk about our strategic priorities. The strategic priorities are really the framework of our whole plan. They fall into 5 key areas: academic excellence, the student experience, intentional stewardship, public impact research, and transformational community engagement. Just a few of the objectives that we plan to pursue with these. Under academic excellence, it is our plan to add more and more academic programs, more graduate programs, more pathways for working adults, more online programs, more opportunity for all citizens of the community to come to UL Lafayette and learn. We want to bring more outstanding faculty to the region, more faculty who can bring us inspiration, solve problems, and help develop the area. Under the student experience, our key goal is always to increase student success. We want to become leaders in undergraduate research. We want to make sure we're fostering belonging and the mental health and wellness of our students. We want to infuse more co-curricular activities, service learning, community service, community engagement. We need places to support health and wellness of our students. We need internships and professional and workplace experiences that our students can partake in right here in Lafayette and the local community. We look to engage parent engagement, to engage parents more, bringing more families to our community, as well as increased enrollment, much of which will be from outside of this region. Under stewardship, we want more spaces for students to study, more local jobs, more interest in philanthropy, and of course, growth and expansion of local jobs for the entire community. Under the research arm, we have a vision for new discovery and economic growth. Again, internships, and collaboration spaces. And within the community, we look to have the community on campus more often, to have opportunities to invite the community onto the university campus, and also to have our employees incentivize them to serve the community in other ways. Of course, we always want the support of our athletics, and one of the things that we're looking forward to is engaging in the Carnegie Community Engagement Classification to fully be recognized for the work we do in serving our community. For our first year of the strategic plan, our priorities are to begin aligning and implementing the plan, student retention and student success, scholarships, new program development, new faculty hires and professional development for these faculty, and campus safety. So we hope together, working with the community, with our plan, with data, and with the spirit of the region, that we can move forward to fulfill our vision and our mission. With that, I'd like to invite my co-chair of the Strategic Planning Task Force, Gretchen Vanacore, to go over some of the data, exactly what you guys have been waiting for.
Thank you, Blanca. Working on the strategic plan was just an incredible opportunity to really listen to our students, our faculty, our staff, our community, to look at lots and lots of data. We are very thorough people. Troy's right. We already have plans to focus group all the data that I'm going to present to you, because there's things that we want to dig in and we want to talk to people and we want to get the qualitative side of everything. So we're going to continue to do this, and it's been a very, very productive endeavor for all of us as we've been working through it. My name is Gretchen Vanacore. I moved to Lafayette 17 years ago. I am born and raised in Acadiana, but in a small rural town, Iota, in Acadia Parish. I am soon to be a 3-time graduate of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. If I start spitting out data about the operationalization of sustainability in higher education, throw something at me. I'm using the wrong PowerPoint then, and I'm looking at the wrong data. So let's dig into the survey findings. So first off, why did we do this? It really was important to the university. What we have found is our students are willing to give us feedback if we ask them directly for it. This is the second survey that we've done in the last year where it was put out to the whole community and there was little response from the university. And then when the university partnered with the agency and we put it directly in front of our students, they gave us more feedback than the broader community gave the first time. So we did have 784 responses to this survey in about a 2.5-week span. Put that into perspective, I think there were 625 from the broader community in 2022. So our students have a lot to say. They want to be heard if we ask them the question, and we're intentional about focusing on asking them. We wanted to do this to measure attitudes towards the elements that they perceive as having the greatest impact on their quality of life. We thought it was really important to have to listen and hear what the students had to say, how it impacts our operations, how they connect with the community. The university is a huge economic driver in the region, in the state. We have a $2.7 billion impact on the state economy, $1.7 billion of which is in Acadiana region. So we wanted to compare what our students had to say to the larger community. And a lot of it was very similar, but in some ways it's very different. We want to use the findings to strengthen our town and gown engagement, improve student retention, and recruitment. So we want to look at the whole recruitment funnel from whenever we're first talking to them as prospects all the way until they walk across the stage. And retain more of them to stay here, retain our brightest minds to stay here in Lafayette by connecting them to this place so that way they can make a difference. So looking at how some of the demographics, these are the demographics of the sample, how they compare overall to the university's population. We do have a majority of female students on campus. It's closer to about 57% of our current student population is female. 64% responded to this. We had a great response from our graduate students. We have about 14% of our overall student population are graduate students. We had a 19% response rate from them. What was really interesting to us is how much our freshmen responded to this. So we do not have 66% of our student population are freshmen. It's really closer to about a third. But now I know if I need to get anything in front of students who are freshmen to reach out to our UNIV 100 instructors because they turned out a lot of surveys, which is great. You'll see later we did separate out some of our freshman and sophomore responses from our juniors, seniors, and graduate students because they feel differently. They feel somewhat the same about some of the issues, but the longer they stay here, the longer they are in the community, their perceptions do change. And we thought that was important to really sort of tease out, and we are absolutely going to workshop it after this. Residency. 94% of the survey respondents are in-state students. That compares to about 85% of our total student population. And then comparing the survey results from the 2022 community-wide quality of life survey that One Acadiana put out compared to what we found from our student responses. Overall quality of life in Lafayette, it was quite similar. 2/3 of the respondents for our student survey rated the overall quality in Lafayette as excellent or good. So we're really pleased to see that. And that followed through all classifications. There wasn't much difference there. Also similar, about 1/3 of both surveys show that the respondents thought that Lafayette in quality of life is improving. It's on a positive trajectory, which is a great thing. But one thing that we should also be aware of is the largest group of the survey actually thought that the quality of life in Lafayette is staying the same. So the issues most frequently identified, sort of comparing the community versus the students. In 2022, the overall community survey, the three quality of life issues that were most identified as impacting their quality of life: crime, economy, and roads and traffic. I do want to point out, like I said, we are thorough. We have our own ideas. We're working with students on lots of different things because we're working on the strategic plan. There were certain things we also wanted to ask. We included in our survey bike and pedestrian safety, and infrastructure. That was not something that was in the community survey, but we wanted to survey our students to see how they ranked it. Well, that was one of the top 3 things that students recognized as impacting their quality of life, the infrastructure for bike safety and pedestrian safety. They also recognized roads and traffic, as well as affordable housing. So the survey covered lots of different areas related to quality of life. It was infrastructure. It was also, connections to the community. One of them also that we sort of borrowed from Oklahoma State's survey was their outlook on employment and careers. So overall, our students are somewhat confident to very confident that they will be able to find a job in Lafayette in their chosen career. Whenever we do the panel a little bit later, we're going to talk about how some of those perceptions change as students get closer to graduation, but overall, students are quite confident. One of the things that we, when we were working through all the data and looking at different classifications, how students, really responded differently, that stood out to us is that 70% of our seniors are working. So students are working. Students do want to work. But only less than 1/3 of the seniors have experience in career-related employment. We didn't dig into it. We don't know if those are all education majors, if they're all architecture majors who are required now to have an internship, but we figure probably a lot of these students who identified as having some experience in their chosen career are probably students that it's baked into their curriculum. So that's a number that we really see we can work with the community to really improve. That's a 40% point gap between the students who are working when they're seniors and those that have experience in their chosen career choice. So some of the really good things, this was something that I was really excited to see, especially this first one. Everybody go back 10 years ago and think about the conversations that we were having in this community about the quality of green spaces, parks, recreation in Lafayette. I really don't think 15 years ago that number would look the same. But we know whenever the community works together, when we put our minds together, when we invest in infrastructure such as Munkus Park and such as downtown, the parks that we're improving down here, as well as Girard Park and the other areas, students highly value it. So this is something that we were really, really excited to see, that 45% of the students rated it as good, and another 27% thought it was excellent. That's a really good thing for Lafayette. Vibrant nightlife and entertainment options was another quality of life issue that our students rated quite high. 39% feel it's good, while 31% say it's excellent. And then festival and arts. One thing I'm going to point out here, so many of the lifestyle, cultural events, the art events that we have throughout this community are free, right? So the best ones. And we find different ways to support them. Of course, we couldn't have Festival International for free without sponsors, without all the other ways that they find a way to make it possible. But for the most part, a lot of these incredible cultural events are free to students. I want y'all to keep that in mind because they rate it very highly. But later on when we look at barriers, we're going to see why that's important to keep in mind. Community connections. Overall, our students feel more connected to campus students. Over 85% of them said that they're most connected to campus students. They're also very connected to faculty and staff and student organizations. This isn't necessarily a negative thing. There's also, over 50% of most of the students that identified connections identified some in the community as well. But overall, our students do feel more connected to the campus community than the broader community. Barriers to connection with the community. So, No surprise, college students are busy, right? You know, they're juggling a different class schedule every semester. They're working full-time, part-time. They have all these great things that they want to participate in the community. So what are some of the barriers that are keeping them from doing so? Number one, not having enough time. You know, there might not be much that we can do about that. Any UL graduate knows that Festival International always falls the weekend before finals, and there's, you know, we can't move finals or Festival International. Maybe we can work something out one day. But we know that there are cycles, there's seasons to the year. And one of the things that I think has been so successful, one of our incredible partnerships this year, is hosting the first Downtown Alive as a way to really connect the university students to downtown Lafayette. The first one was focused on UL students. We had a shuttle that brought them here. We emphasized free food, free Coca-Cola products, free music, free entertainment, free fans, just come out and everything's free. And we had a huge turnout, and it was incredible. So those are maybe some ways that the university can partner with the community to better identify how we can fit in some of these great cultural events that sort of sync up with our academic calendar. The next one, not having enough money. You know, we know, again, so many of these cultural events are free. We just don't think our students are aware of it until they get until they get into the junior year, their senior year, or their graduate school. Because a lack of awareness of existing opportunities, not being personally invited to events, and not feeling welcome or a sense of belonging were the other most identified. And together, that's a huge number of our students who are likely not participating in incredible community events, many of which are free because they just don't know about them or they're not invited to them. So that was all the good stuff. You know, of course, we have a few things that we know. You don't do these surveys hoping to just get a gold star, a pat on the back. You do them because you know that there's some things that you got to work on. And what we have found, you know, sort of grouping them together, the infrastructure issues of Lafayette are what we really need to work on. You know, we cannot build mountains. We can't build a beachfront. But we can improve the infrastructure of our city strategically in ways that matter and improve the quality of life, not just for our students, but for everyone that lives here. We originally were planning to present, you know, this data looking at the entire student population. But whenever we started to filter it out, looking at freshmen and sophomores versus juniors, seniors, and graduate students, we saw there was a definite shift towards the negative in their view of these infrastructure issues. You can see public transportation, you know, most of them are kind of in the meh, you know, it's good, it's fair, I don't know. When you get to the junior, senior, and graduate students, there is a definite shift towards poor. Same thing for roads and traffic. Most of them are in fair to poor. And look, traffic problems are relative. You know, depending on where they grew up, what part of the city they live in now, what time of the day they're traveling in it, traffic is a relative issue. Johnston Street traffic congestion is a relative issue. Down, you know, by the mall, by, you know, on that side of Johnston Street, there is traffic congestion. Come to campus, there's not that much traffic congestion on Johnston Street. So that's a relative issue, but certainly there was a definite shift in roads and traffic. And then bike paths and sidewalks. Again, this is one of the ones that we added into the survey. We've been doing a lot of work in the last year trying to better understand bike paths, sidewalks, and those sorts of infrastructure issues that affect our students. And that shows a significant negative slide, going from 13% rating it as poor when they're freshmen and sophomores to 48% rating it as poor when they get to juniors, seniors, and graduate students. We did the same thing for looking at issues such as affordable housing, quality health care, and public safety. Not all of them are quite as dramatic as the first three, except for affordable housing. Overall, students identified affordable housing as one of the significant issues, the top three, that affect their quality of life and their connection to the community. And you can see there's a significant shift as students get into their juniors and their senior years, graduate school. There is a significant shift in those that identify this as a barrier. So I kind of want to round out some of that discussion about infrastructure on, add to it some context, some of the studies that we've done over the last year, looking at bike and pedestrians, traffic ways on campus, and the issues and barriers that our students are facing. So last October, the Office of Sustainability, along with many student volunteers and other offices, worked together to do a pedestrian traffic study on Johnston Street. We followed the American Planning Association methodology for doing so. We're serious about methodology on campus. If we're going to present data, we want to make sure that it's relevant and that it's collected correctly. So we did this on a Thursday and on a Monday. This number shocked me. I was not expecting to see this number. So we collected the data from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. At 15-minute intervals, we wrote down the number that we had counted for the number of people that were crossing the street. We sat out there for an entire day twice and observed things that we really didn't understand were going on campus. I think a lot of people pass through campus in a vehicle. They see a few people waiting to cross the road and they think, okay, well, there's just a few people here and there. No, there's over 3,410 crossings on one day that we counted. The vast majority of them are at St. Mary Boulevard and Johnston Street. Over 60% of the crossings are at that intersection. What's important to note is that this was before we opened up our health sciences campus on the other side of Johnston Street. So we absolutely know that number is already irrelevant. We have at least 300 students who are already taking class in the healthcare sciences buildings. From doing this study, one of the other things we also came to realize is that there are people that live in the St. Streets neighborhood, people that live in Freetown, Puerto Rico, people that work downtown, and they're moving all across those 4 quadrants. So this is not just a connection from campus to downtown. This is connecting neighborhoods and people to where they're living, they're working, they're learning. So we really dug into this, and this is now the 3rd study we've done in the last year. So I think we have reached a point of data saturation that we can really start speaking about the issue in a way that can elevate the conversation, and we start working together as partners between campus, downtown, St. Streets, Freetown. And of course, Lafayette Consolidated Government. They have also done a traffic study, and we're meeting with them, we're talking with them because we know it's an important issue. On Mondays, of course, we have more students on campus on Monday, so that number went up. So on Monday, it was more like 3,903 pedestrian crossings. I have a pointer I haven't been using. There we go. So something I want to point out here. This is 470 people who crossed in the middle of the street without a crosswalk. So we counted everything between the crosswalks, and there were 407 people who did this that day. 407 crossings. Some people may have gone one way and back the other. But what we also recognized while standing out there and observing data, observing pedestrians and traffic, is that because there's not enough traffic to slow down those vehicles, because there's 5 lanes but on campus right there, and because there's only one red light between East Louis and University Avenue, vehicles are traveling at a very high rate when they're coming through our campus. We counted as many as 18 students queuing at one time to cross the street by Mouton Hall, crossing to go to Taco Bell. We do not have the infrastructure to support this. We also witnessed many near crashes between vehicles and students, and the crash data supports that. So that is also happening. And then finally, like I said, we reached a point of data saturation. We partnered with Lafayette Consolidated Government to send out a survey that they had sent out to the community, and they didn't get much response rate from our students. So we partnered with them to send it out again just to our students, and we had a very good response rate. We had over 600 students who participated in this survey. We workshopped it after, so qualitative, quantitative, to back it up. One thing that I want to point out is when we ask the students, how do you typically move around, 50% of them, the largest group, said that they move around campus by walking 5 to 7 days per week. We actually have more students who are walking, more students, faculty, and staff who are walking more frequently to move around campus than use a single occupancy vehicle. I don't know that there's another place, another population in Lafayette that is already conditioned to be good pedestrians, use bikes. We just need the infrastructure to support them connecting to all of those spaces that they value so highly, such as Muncus Park, downtown Lafayette, and the other areas around campus. So finally, a summary of the major findings from the survey that we did. 2/3 of our students rate overall quality of life excellent or good. That is something to be really happy about. 1/3 of our students think overall quality of life is improving in Lafayette. Students are working, but few of them have experience in their chosen field by the time they graduate from our university. Students highly rate parks and recreation, entertainment, and arts and culture, and they are connected to campus and community, but there are barriers that exist, and we've identified many of them. We're going to focus group it, but we've already identified some. And finally, infrastructure supporting quality of life was the lowest rated category for students in every classification. So I want to thank you all for listening to this. I think we're gonna start the focus group tonight on the stage while we move it into a panel. Thank you.
I saw Maggie eyeing me. I will give you your microphone back. Don't worry. I'm not going to leave you without a microphone. Thank you so much, Gretchen. I'd like to point out at this point that the information that Gretchen just covered, along with a report of all the collected data, is available to view on our Vibrant Acadiana website. At the close of tonight's event, we will offer a QR code that will take you directly to this information, so you'll be able to review it yourself and go over it and absorb a little more of it. At this time, we'd like to transition into a discussion to dive deeper into the data that Gretchen has just presented to us. And by the way, Gretchen, I do want to say that I think that my comments about the university being more meticulous were actually a compliment, because I'm more of a ready, shoot, aim kind of person, and I appreciate you guys actually aiming. That was it worked out really, really well for all of us.
We're particular about color slides too,
Yeah.
in case you haven't heard.
Completely understand. Please help me in welcoming to the stage our One Acadiana's very own Dr. Maggie Bienvenue. Apparently the most popular person we have at One Acadiana. She's our manager of workforce and policy initiatives at One Acadiana, and so we're excited to have her moderate this panel, and I will give you your microphone in just a minute. She'll moderate this conversation between some UL faculty, which is made up of Gretchen Vanacore herself, Dr. Melissa Lewis, and Jennifer Lemonnier, and students Kate Hughes and Grayson Stepanek, got it, God. I knew I was going to stumble at some point, but that was it. So thank you guys for being here, and we're going to turn the discussion over to the panel.
Thank you, Troy. So this topic, by the way, is very personal to me. I was excited to be a part of this, not only because of my role at One Acadiana, but I am also a 3-time UL graduate as well. Go Cajuns. And also now an adjunct professor. So really being the person who is right in between this conversation. I think that I can speak for all of the panel, though, that we've been so excited to share this information with all of you. This has been a great project to work on and a really amazing partnership. Panel, I'll go ahead and give you guys all a chance to introduce yourself. You've all gotten to meet Gretchen already, so Melissa, why don't we start with you?
Good afternoon. Testing. There we go.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Melissa Lewis. I'm the Director of Planning and Academic Initiatives at the university. Within my role, I work very instrumental with the academic colleges working toward their strategic plans within their areas, as well as the individual department assessment plans, which we need for our accreditation. And we also work with that non-academic areas, helping them operationalize what they do outside of their normal daily basis, and putting all of those plans together to operationalize it with our university strategic plan. We're now taking that on in a different way. We revamped a lot, especially with the new strategic plan. It kind of gave us an opportunity to look how we were doing things and kind of revamp the whole process. Like our panel, I'm also a 3-time graduate of the institution, and I'm a pretty much lifelong resident of Lafayette, minus 2 or 3 years here and there when I lived in Texas. So thank you for having me.
Right. Jennifer?
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Lemonnier. I'm one of the Associate Directors in the Office of Career Services. I do work in a student-focused role, assisting students with that job search process, preparation, mock interviews, resume reviews, career fairs, as well as being the manager of our online job listing and event platform called Handshake.
Great. Well, and clearly we did want to have the student perspective on this as well. So we are really excited to be joined today by both an undergraduate student as well as a graduate student. So Kate, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. Is it working? I think it is. Okay, my name is Kate Hughes and I am a journalism student. I'm a senior and I work at a local law firm, and my graduate plans within the next year are to take the LSAT and go to law school. But I'm here representing student government, and I've had the opportunity to work very hard on this survey with One Acadiana and a lot of UL employees, so it's been a great opportunity. Happy
She's
to be here.
probably single-handedly responsible for about half of these responses, so. Grayson?
Yes. So, hey everyone, my name is Grayson Stepanek. I am a graduate student pursuing my MBA right now with a concentration in entrepreneurship. My undergraduate major was marketing with a minor in math, so that's a cool little tidbit. But I am the communications and marketing graduate assistant for career services. I actually work under Jennifer. So it's really great to be here. My plans after graduation are to pursue a full-time marketing role, as well as pursuing entrepreneurial ideas that I have, kind of doing both at the same time. And whatever happens first and whatever is beneficial to me at that time, that's what I'll pursue. But growing up in Lafayette all my life, really, really excited for what this discussion and this event will bring, because Lafayette means a lot to me, and I've seen it change as I've grown up. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Very well said. Well, thank all of you for being here to help us unpack this data, and whew, there is a lot. So we'll go ahead and get started into it, though. So Melissa, why don't we actually start with you specifically on just kind of the overall about the quality of life aspect of the study. So we just heard that roughly 1/3 of the students think quality of life is improving, and 2/3 rate overall quality of life as good or excellent. So let's kind of just recap. What did they especially love about Lafayette?
So the students that actually responded to the survey, the 3 things they really, really loved about Lafayette is our cultural opportunities that we have here within our number of festivals, the type of festivals. Another thing was our vibrant nightlife, which Gretchen shared a lot of that with you, and also our parks and recreation, that being close, that we are close to, we have 2 parks that are very close to our campus. So overall, that is exactly, when we looked at the demographics, overall, that was the 3 things.
I did want to give you a shot, though, for, because like Gretchen also pointed out, like there's a lot more when you start teasing into the demographics. And so I was hoping maybe you might give us a little bit of a breakdown then on where were some variations that we saw in that, based off of that.
So we looked at the data in a lot of different ways. I looked at it, not just me, but we were the team. We looked to see if there was a difference with gender, overall residency, whether they lived on campus, off campus. But the main thing that stuck out to us that I was able to kind of think about some of my own perspectives with conversations with others was when you think about and you look at the data with our out-of-state students and our international students. So even though overall, they really, all the students really thought it was those things are great, but those particular students had very low response rates. I'm trying to think, if you look at the maybe 60% that thought our cultural and our, the different things we offer, when you look at the actual demographics for out-of-state students, that decreased to about 40%. Thought it was, we were doing well in that area, and then internationally was close to 20%. So I started thinking a little bit more, being a native here and actually having conversations with different people and coworkers and students that are from out of state as well as international, and looking at their perspective. Because, those that are from Lafayette, that a lot of things that we do are family-oriented. And not that they all are, but family's kind of important to us all here. And from an outsider who's not from the area, it's kind of hard to break into some of those places. Even though you may be invited, because we invite everyone, but sometimes it's a little bit more than the invitation. It becomes, do I feel welcome here, and beyond that. So over the years, I've had many conversations with people who are not native of the area, and that is probably a barrier that we could probably embrace and look into a little bit deeper. Or are we doing everything that we can for our out-of-state students, as well as our international students?
I love that you bring up that the data really helps us to put a different person's eyes on this. It really helps us to check some of our assumptions too. And so with that, it can go back into some of the not so positive things. Gretchen, since the respondents gave the highest percentage of poor ratings to our roads and traffic, followed by that affordable
to Lafayette, like Mr. Lima, to tell us, what we obviously know is that if we want to improve downtown, we want to improve campus and community connection, we need to improve the infrastructure. And we need to do so in a holistic way where there is strategic, affordable housing in the area around campus that can support where we're at capacity. And we could really invest in our infrastructure, bike and pedestrian safety, build complete streets with smart growth, so that way we really have a vibrant community surrounding campus and downtown.
Thank you for that. And one of the things that I'm hearing in all of this too is that students clearly do have a really strong perspective about the things that we should be doing, but I think they don't necessarily always know how to share those things with us. Like, it's great that we have data to back this story up, but we want to drill into also too, how do we get more of that information from them? And so, Kate, you get to be our student representative here, right? And you and I have had a lot of conversations about that the students don't feel as connected to our community, I think, as most of us, I'm going to say adults, necessarily believe. So how do we use the results of this survey to help them feel more connected with our community?
Yes, I think the best way to start this answer is by going back to, I know Dr. Bauer talks a lot about it, but the COVID pandemic and what it did to students in our area and the young people. And I think it's so important to remember that for our adult community, it seems like it was just a moment in your life, but for a lot of us, it was like the most important time of our life. And it just has impacted students in, like you said, our mental health, our connectivity to the community in a lot of tangible ways. And I think that this year was the first time, even me, I'm from Lafayette, I felt connected to my university community and my Lafayette community in a different way. And I think a firm example of that is the Downtown Alive that happened this year. It was, I guess, I know that y'all said it also, but it was free. There was transportation provided, and it was like clearly communicated and the invitation was consistent and very like evident that you wanted students to be there. And I feel like it didn't take an event to be created. It was something that already existed, but it was like that invitation that was more direct than it had ever been before. So I think that that's something that can be continued in our community on both sides, like with the university and just in our community, giving students like an opportunity to feel that connection in a way that brings them in and like makes them feel welcome. But I think another point that I want to hit is this survey, the way that so many students responded. I think that needs to be talked about. Students have things to say, and they don't always have the platform to say them on. I think that it's so important to remember that with the disconnect, sometimes students like speak into a void, like they feel like the things that they say will never make it anywhere. And so I think that with this survey, they've been told countless times, and I know that I've said it a million times, that these results are going to be taken by administration, taken by the community, taken by student government, which I'm representing, and like things are going to be done. And I think that that is a point that needs to be made over and over and over again.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to pivot a little bit. So typically we think of one of the main functions of a university is about career development and preparing students for the careers that they're going to have after graduation. But we found some very surprising insights in the career responses. Students are generally optimistic about finding jobs in their field, but that optimism starts to fade as they get closer to graduation. And we also found that very few were starting to work in their chosen field. So Jennifer, we know your office at Career Services works very hard to find opportunities for students. The career fair itself has become a huge event, but what are we missing? So how can the community help students get a foot in the door for careers in their chosen field?
I don't think it's something that we're missing, but I think it's something that we can continuously improve upon. And for our employer partners that are here in the room, I'll stress internships. For example, we know they exist, some majors require them, but internships, more internships, and I'll say paid internships, because there's a difference between paid and unpaid internships. And so our students are seeking out the paid internships, but internships specifically is one way, and we at Career Services will continue to partner with those employers to make sure we're helping you effectively host those interns. And secondly, providing partnership opportunities between employers and professors to implement community-based projects within the classroom. So having those experiences, partnering the community employers with the professors into the classroom would be effective in giving those experiences and promoting those particular employers in the community so those students are aware of that, and not necessarily that internship element, but those project-based component, similar to like a capstone class, but implementing it more a wider net. But also what we find through the data too is that students are really relying on those professors to assist them with the job search and letters of recommendation. So having those employer partnerships with the professors is something that we can continue to strive for, but Career Services can work harder at doing that for our employer partners and for our professors.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we did actually see, we didn't show the slide, but we did see in the data as far as like where students are finding jobs and finding about them. Sure, they looked at LinkedIn and things like that, but a high percentage of them was either from their friends and family or their professors. And so you think about how many of our professors are visiting professors from other places. So we do have to have intentionality with how we connect them to the community to make sure they know what jobs are here. But Grayson, I imagine actually that you as a graduate student, you've had a chance to work with a lot of professors very closely, and hopefully you've gotten some chance to engage with the community. So do you have any additional suggestions on how we can better help the community help you?
Definitely. I think an added dimension to what Jennifer talked about is mentorship. I think that mentorship is extremely important. I'm blessed to where I'm able to call one of my previous professors my mentor, and I'm able to reach out to her and ask her for any kind of advice or guidance, because she works in my industry, in my field, and I'm able to directly relate to her and, just move through life that way. But most of my friends, both graduate students and undergraduate students, don't have that. So I think mentorship is a really important thing, whether it's through an internship structure, and yes, you're their supervisor or their employer, but you're also their mentor and guiding them and developing them, or if it's a community organization-based mentorship, 705, doing some kind of mentorship program, or just informally reaching out to people and being like, hey, let's go get coffee, let's chat. We connected in this way. Let me help guide you and build you in a certain direction. One, that just helps with career professional development, but two, that helps retention. A really cool statistic when it comes to internships is, and this is the current, I think 2022, 2023, 53% of internships turn into full-time positions. And that was actually higher pre-COVID. It was about 76%. So as almost everything did, it took a hit during COVID, but it's on the trajectory upwards. So over half to 3/4 of people who are interns turn into full-time. And adding a mentorship aspect will really help when it comes to keeping that local talent, creativity, and culture here within Louisiana and Lafayette.
I think by now y'all can see why we have Kate and Grayson as our student representatives today. Well, so with that, let's go a little bit further in that connection. So we really often hear community leaders say we all want to keep young people close to home. But it sounds like you all students don't feel included in this conversation. The data shows they don't feel very connected with Lafayette when we break it down. So when we look at the reasons why, we're not surprised they felt they don't have enough time, they don't have enough money to do more. But what was interesting in the next strongest reasons were the things that I think that we can work on as a community, right? Like it's that lack of awareness of events, the lack of targeted invitations for students, and not feeling welcome when they do show up. So back to Kate and Grayson, what are specific actions the community can take to proactively welcome and engage UL students?
Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. I think the Downtown Alive event is the perfect example of this. All of the things that people say prevent them from being engaged, like the money and the transportation, the list of things were perfectly done for the Downtown Alive event, and the success of that is just evident of how much that affects the way the students will be engaged. And I think that, like Grayson said, the trajectory is only up. Those things can only improve. It just needs to occur more frequently. And I guess I don't know. I think that's kind of what I was thinking in general was just students want to be there and they want to be engaged and they want to be a part of Lafayette. They just need to be given the platform to say that and the place to do that. But it can be done, and I think that is so important to say.
Oh, do I have mine off? Can you all hear me? There we go. Sorry. Love when that happens. So adding on to what Kate said, I think a really important thing about that as well is, one, just the accessibility of programs, initiatives, events, whatever it is being implemented, just making sure that it's accessible to students in the best way that you can. So you know that students' schedules will vary dramatically, but on the weekends, more than likely, they're having to do homework, catch up on things, but they do have some free time, especially in the afternoons, to hang out with friends, go do things. But they're in class, from about 8 a.m. to most classes end around 3 to 4. So just thinking of, okay, when are we marketing to them? When are we trying to send out messaging, knowing when they're going to be receptive of that, and just being mindful of that. That's a big thing when it comes to marketing, is you have to know your demographic in order to best market your products, your service, whatever it may be. So just understanding who students are, where they're at in life, and just their thought processes and how they're moving about life. I think that will really benefit the engagement and the connectivity. Just also to add on to that is just the idea of meeting them where they are. Where students are. They're on campus, right? So engaging that aspect of where they are, where to meet them. It's a two-way street. It's a bridge that needs to be built, and you're able to better interact and engage with them if you meet them where they're at, making it more accessible, like I said earlier.
Okay, so now that we've discussed all of this information, and we're all feeling full of data, I'm going to give you all each one more chance. Just what is the one key takeaway that you would like for this audience to know from this whole study?
I mean, I think from the study as well as from my own personal experience, connect with students in a really meaningful way, connect early, and connect often, and be very targeted in the approach. Before coming to Lafayette, I actually went to McNeese. I graduated from McNeese. I lived in McNeese in Lake Charles for 4 years. I came here and it felt much different, but what really hooked me to this community was doing a project-based project that the Beau Soleil Solar Home, and we got to meet so many people in this community, but we felt so supported by our university, by our entire community, and it's the reason why after I graduated and my husband's job was transferred to Houston, we kept a home here, and we came back every weekend just because this felt like home. Even though his job was in Houston, and we lived in Houston 5 days a week and came back on the weekend. And then whenever this job came open 10 years ago, I practically camped outside of Martin Hall and elbowed my way into it. It really, this community is very special, but I don't identify with my first alma mater the way I identify with this one, and I think everything had to do with the community making intentional connections and the university being intentional about connecting with us.
Melissa?
So for me, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Those that know me well know I think all the time. A lot of times I'm in my head more than I'm speaking. So while I do have a takeaway, I do want to start first by saying that I'm going to add something to it based on what the two students said tonight. And it started with the first statement is that we hope today is not the only day we continue these conversations. And I want to say that was going to be my takeaway, because within my role at the university, and also being a student and being a community advocate, and as well as living here most of my life, I know that this is just the beginning of a conversation. We at the university know that it's very important because it was we went through a lot of planning with strategic plan, and transformational community engagement ended up being one of our 5 priorities. So that meant a lot to us when we did a lot of the planning. So I know that the institution has a lot of work to do in that area, and because it's part of the strategic plan, we are not going to forget about this. This is going to continue. So I also want to say that I just feel like our students are our customers. I have a marketing background, so that's always one thing that I always remember. The students are the reason why we're here. And if you don't engage your students and think about where they are, what are they doing, honestly, I'm really going on the tangent, but that's how strongly I feel about this. I was setting up a survey today, coworker and I who's in the room, and one of those things I was thinking, what time is best to send it for them? Because I'm thinking about the student and what's the most, we want to engage you and meet you where you are. So I just felt very passionate about that. So that's my takeaway, that no, conversations are not going to end.
Jennifer?
I have 2 quick ones, and the first one is that we all know from the data that students are really looking for employment, looking at their personal relationships, whether it's professionals or their internships, employers. So we need to continue to foster and add relationships with our employer partners, and I'll shout out to Employer Relations, Kayla Patel, so that we can form those employer partnerships, but then again, collaborate more intentionally inside the university with those additional partnerships. And secondly, they talked about the confidence that they have in finding a job, and that may change a little bit towards their junior and senior year, and that we as a university can provide the tools for their toolkit in that job search process by expanding the way we market to our students to let them know that further our outreach and education of what we do provide, because I do think career service is a hidden gem, and that we only touch a small part of the population, and that we do have an outstanding service that will help them with their job search needs. but expand our education of that to our student base and work with our community partners.
Absolutely. All right, Kate, your turn.
Okay, I think what I have to say is continue to be persistent with students. Sometimes it takes completely rebranding a Downtown Alive, but we're going to show up if we have that invitation. And my second thing is going to be ask us the questions, because we have things to say and we just need the platform to do that. If you have a question, go to students because they want to answer them.
Grayson.
What I'll finish off with, I'm glad you had mentioned, Melissa, about like this being the start. You know, that was one thing, honestly, that I was coming into this. I was like, I hope it doesn't turn out to where we come here, we look at the data, we see all the effort that was put into things, and we talk about it, and then nothing happens. You know, like there's no net positive there. And so when I was thinking about, okay, what do I want people to leave this event with, my thought, and it pertains earlier to the whole mentorship idea, but this is kind of like an action item form of it, is working on ways to build those connections and relationships with students. That internships, yes, great. Let's keep pushing internships. Those are amazing. Those are needed. But sometimes that may be almost too big of a step for somebody who's never had an internship before. You know, I remember being in a student organization meeting, and we had this speaker that was talking all about internships, and I never had one yet. And I was just sitting behind my Zoom screen, because it's 2020, and I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, I have no connections. How am I going to get my first internship? And then, you know, one thing led to the other, doors open, and I got here. But that was a scary, like, even though it may seem as a small step, it was pretty big at that point for me. So thinking of other ways to make that step even smaller, you know, whether it's, like I mentioned earlier, mentorship programs that your company can, you know, get a group of 10 and y'all have a mentor-mentee type relationship, or open houses for your company that, hey, this Friday of this month, we're inviting 15 students in and they get to see what we do on a daily basis. Coffee chats, just things like that, yeah, it's not an internship experience, but it's a connection. You know, my girlfriend hasn't had an internship yet, but she shadowed a local radio station with a reporter and was able to go out, do like Friday night football stuff. And yeah, she hasn't had the internship yet, but she has a phone number. And that's really important when it comes time for her to have extra time in her schedule to fit in an internship and start making that progress. So I think just building out those opportunities for you to build those connections with students in a more informal way is also really important.
Can I add one quick thing to that? Because I
suppose.
know Julian is still in the audience, and you know, also don't underestimate the value of organizations like the 705. You know, I was, you know, whenever we were toying with, are we moving to Houston full time? Are we staying here? I was on the board with Carly and with other people, and that is part of what kept me connected, and part of what made me feel like, you know, even though I grew up in a small town, you know, I could have a career here and be successful. So, you know, those types of organizations, I know y'all are not just for young professionals anymore, but, you know, connecting with young professionals and inviting them into those organizations where y'all are already connected goes a very, very long way.
That actually does segue really well to the last point I was going to make. So y'all have all heard now the action item, right? We're going to challenge each and every one of y'all to think about how can you involve UL students in what you do. Is it a board seat? Is it inviting them to shadow? Just think about every way that you possibly can. You know the invitation's at least open on this side. So how about a round of applause for our amazing panelists today? Y'all stay put. All right, so again, thank you all for the work that you are all doing, that you all did to make this study happen. Again, this was an amazing partnership. And then coming in today and taking the time to discuss the results here on this stage. For final thoughts tonight, I'd like to welcome Dr. Joseph Savoy, the president of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And Dr. Savoy is going to be joined by Colby Hebert, the president of the UL Lafayette Student Government Association.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And don't we have a bunch of great people at the university? Thank you all for what you've done. And the information that was presented earlier, Gretchen, you mentioned your affiliation with 705. I've been around so long that I remember when it was 70. But on behalf of the university and our faculty, staff, and students, I want to thank you all for being a part of this event tonight. Certainly want to thank One Acadiana for their partnership in developing this survey tool and providing an opportunity for us to share the results with the community. Now, when we recruit bright young people as students to the university, we're also inviting them to become part of the larger Lafayette and Acadiana community, which is why the university is eager to participate in this study to gain critical insight into our students' perspectives about issues affecting their quality of life. When universities and local communities work together through mutually beneficial partnerships, we can attract new businesses, create good job opportunities, and develop our workforce. We can prepare students to be engaged leaders and citizens. We can enhance public spaces and infrastructure. We can develop solutions to societal issues through public impact research. We can improve access to healthcare services and promote healthier living. And we can foster a greater sense of community, all of which strengthens local and state economies. It supports the social mobility of our graduates and improves the quality of life for each one of us and our neighbors. Now, as an R1 university that specializes in applied research, UL Lafayette is tackling some of society's greatest challenges, such as developing COVID-19 vaccinations, preparing our workforce to harness new renewable energy resources. But we're equally concerned with the issues which most affect our local and regional communities, which is why we also use our research engines to develop tangible solutions affecting our neighbors, such as building resilient stormwater management systems and developing a comprehensive economic development strategy for the state's coastal seafood industry. And while much of our work is embodied through research and innovation, teaching and learning and service, the university also has a physical presence in our community. Our main campus, the research park, the athletic complex, and our new health sciences complex are in the heart of Lafayette. These grounds and buildings provide a place for students to learn and prepare for their future. These campuses also provide employment opportunities, recreation, entertainment, and for the entire community. The main campus is also home to nearly 3,800 students who live on campus. I have nearly 4,000 next-door neighbors. But these campuses are not islands. They are part of a vibrant community surrounded by parks, neighborhoods, the oil center, and downtown Lafayette. These community assets, along with our campuses, support the arts and culture, festivals, and green spaces that our students have told us that they value highly. The students participating in the survey also made it clear that we have work to do. Though our students value the parks we've invested in developing and the arts and culture which make our community special, many also point to the barriers preventing them from truly accessing and engaging with these assets. We need to work together to address these concerns. But I want you to know that your university embraces its role to strengthen our community and to implement meaningful change that improves the quality of life for our students, faculty, and staff, and larger community for each of you and for generations to come. Our vision for the future is unapologetically bold. It is anchored in a strong identity and committed to ensuring that our students and community thrive. The university is experiencing unprecedented progress in services, programs, footprint, and connection to economic, social, and cultural health of Acadiana. And that momentum must continue. We are eager to work alongside all of you as partners to make sure that it does. Thank you all for being here, and go Cajuns.
I keep having the impossible task of following him up, and every time he just takes it up a step, so I'll give you notes after. My name is Colby Hebert. I have the privilege this year of serving as student body president, and if you would have told me 4 years ago that I was even going to college, I would have looked at you and told you you were crazy. So to find myself here with just so many great people in the room, it really is an incredible opportunity. I want to thank everybody that has put the forethought into this conversation and allowed students to have a seat at the table. Kate and so many others have said that if you ask us, we will give you some answers. We're not shy about telling you no. I feel like, so my job, I have like the privilege of just saying, being the voice for a very loud group of people that it's really good at finding problems. And so I get to be the voice. And so every Monday, Dr. Savoy gives us that opportunity to just tell them what the student body's thinking. And so it's a great opportunity to be in that room. But what I will say is this, is that about my story is I'm born and bred here in Lafayette. For the last 22 years, I've lived here. I grew up in elementary school. I went to Ernest Gallette. In 4th grade, I moved to Milton, went there through 8th grade. My freshman year of high school, I went to Como High School. And when the new high school, Southside High School, opened, I moved there. I feel like I'm like the base model for this conversation. But I feel like it's been an awkward one for me to approach because of the reality of the fact is that I'm moving. I'm leaving. And that's kind of to pull the Band-Aid off. But I'm leaving because my career field, I need to go get some expertise, and I want to come back and make this place better. But the reality is that for the last 22 years, it wasn't until the last 6 months that I felt connected to this community. It wasn't until I, broke out of this. There's a difference I always relate it to, between private school and public school students here in Lafayette. Private school students, in my opinion and in my perspective that I've seen, there's a community within those families. All the parents know each other. Everybody's bringing each other's kids to work, and everybody's supporting each other at the sports events and whatnot. And I never experienced that in my high school career. Never experienced that growing up. And so it wasn't until I felt, Dr. Lewis, you had said that a lot of our students out of state or from this area, they felt trouble breaking into that almost inner circle of Lafayette, and I didn't feel that I did that until about 6 months ago. Didn't feel like I had met anybody that would give me that was anywhere near putting me near the place that I could actually get an internship for the first time. That seemed terrifying, or get a job. And so my life in the last 6 months changed. About a year ago, I really want to work in public service. That's what I want to devote my career to. And about a year and a half ago, I started working in Baton Rouge and driving every day because I knew that my career field is going to require me to do that a little bit more. And so from maybe last August to this past August, I drove every day back and forth from Lafayette to Baton Rouge. But I knew that was what was required of me to get that experience. And it wasn't until I got mentors, like Grayson mentioned, and those that I saw had a career that I admired, the one that I wanted in 10, 20, 30 years, that they actually did exist in my community. It wasn't until I saw that where I actually started to grow a fondness for this community. I got asked the question recently, why have you always been so adamant about leaving? And everybody always mentions the festivals and whatnot, and from my perspective, it was, well, I can just come visit. I don't have what's the need for me to live here? And it wasn't until I broke into that community and what we really have here, and tapped into that I felt belonging. I think conversations like this are incredibly important. I think they're ones that, this conversation is one that comes up every once in a while, but this really needs to be the moment and the catalyst for change. I think we have a great momentum right here with this survey, and we have nearly 800 students who are really willing and ready to give their opinion. And I think if we just continue to push forward, we'll hear more from students that are really trying to speak up, but like Kate said, maybe they feel like they're speaking into the void a little bit. And so it's really been a great opportunity. Thank you again for inviting students to the table. And with that, go Cajuns.
Dr. Savoy, Colby, thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone that's here tonight. Gretchen and Dr. Bauer, thank you very much for presenting to us. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you to all the panelists. You did a fantastic job. I will say, I feel sometimes that the community may take UL for granted at times. This is not something that every community has. The relationship that UL has with Acadiana and with Lafayette in particular, obviously, is special. It's not like that in every community. The university, to have leadership in this university like Dr. Savoy, that are truly committed to making the place we live better, to making the experience for the students better, is unique. And we need to celebrate that, and we need to encourage it even more. So if there's anything that we can do, as was said in the panel, this is the start of the conversation. This is not the end of it. The results were not the goal. We're not the sole goal. The improvement is the goal, and we want to continue that. That's what CivicCon as a whole is about. It's about starting that conversation, raising the civic IQ of the community. I want to thank everyone again for being with us tonight. Thank you for those of you that joined us for the mixer upstairs, and I want to thank those that joined us online tonight to view the event online. There's a couple of QR codes. Are they going to be on the screen, or are they going to be? There we go. A couple of QR codes here that are available. One that will lead you to the data from tonight's presentation, and the other one will lead you to a survey on our CivicCon Acadiana series. So please check that out. Check out that survey as well. I know we just talked about a survey. We're going to survey you again. But we really want to help improve the CivicCon series and find out what you think the burning issues are that we need to address in the CivicCon series. If this is your first time at one of our CivicCon events, I encourage you to keep an eye out for future CivicCon events because, as I mentioned, they're conversation starters, and that's what they're intended to be. As the students in the room and all of you in the room, I would encourage you to remain civically engaged. Who was it that said, was it Colby that made the comments like, you know, a group of people that love to tell you about, like can tell you about the problems? Yeah, we need to discuss those problems, but we also need to discuss the solutions. It's not about just talking about what's wrong. We got to figure out how to fix those things. We live in a great place. I love living here. I love this community, and I love this region. I love the festivals as well, so I have to admit that. But remain civically engaged. Got a runoff election coming up. Be sure to go out and vote. As I always say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. So please go vote. And I hope everyone, again, joins us next year for our continuing series on CivicCon. I do want to take one moment of privilege here and recognize the staff at One Acadiana because they're incredible folks. We've got an amazing team. You've met Maggie, Dr. Bienvenue here. Lindsay Falk, who's sitting over here, is our events person. We've got a number of other folks. I'm not sure if Keely is still here, and Sam, Chasa, a number of folks that really incredible team. Someone taught me a long time ago, just hire people that are smarter than you and get out of their way. And they are phenomenal people, and I enjoy working with them every day. So thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope everyone has a great evening.